Welcome back to Too Much Future. This is episode 4. I'm Cameron.
I'm Michael.
This is the show where we go back and we play through the original Fallout game. I feel like this is this is the exact way that I do the Sword Coast Coast to Coast intros, where I'm just like,
I'm just like going completely off the cuff, just
and all in one breath. As people can probably figure out by listening to that show, but that's not this show. This is Too Much Future, where there's too much of it, but not yet. I'm just trying that catchphrase. I don't know if that's going to be it.
Too much of it, but not yet.
When you've got too much, but not enough. Too much future. Last episode, we went down to the Raider Village, right? We did Vault 15 and then the Raiders.
Yes. We basically finished up at Shady Sands.
Yeah, we did all that kind of stuff, and now we're moving out of the northern part of whatever this region is, and we're going to the central part of this kind of coastal. Where is this? Is Northern California, I guess.
Is it Northern California? Because isn't one of these places? I'm very vaguely remembering this. Isn't Los Angeles around here somewhere?
Yeah, that is true. You're right. The LA Boneyard. We heard a little bit. Oh no, it is Southern California. I guess I'm looking at the map now, and it's Southern California with the cathedral and the Boneyard basically just being LA. It looks like.
Yeah.
All right. Well. Oh, so the military base. Oh, the military base is in Northern California. Actually, we end up, I guess, covering a lot more. I'm sure this is very engaging to listen to, me looking at a map and then not
Just
giving
describing it.
Yeah, just describing what's happening. But yeah, so we're in kind of like a lot of California is what we're getting here. So we did that and all that kind of up there stuff in Vault 13 and then Vault 15. And we're looking for our water chip to try to save Vault 13. And in order to do that, Michael, we decided to go down south to Junktown. Which we know one thing about Junktown already. We know that the mayor is Killian Darkwater.
Yes, Killian Darkwater. He of the name.
He's my one-eyed samurai who wears a trench coat and then whips both swords around while firing guns at the same time.
And now, after the bombs have dropped, he has nothing better to do than to be the mayor of a town called Junktown.
Yep, that's what he's destined to do. Weirdly enough, we'll talk about it in a bit, but there is a character in this episode and in Junktown who basically is what I just described. He's like, someone's cool anime character that they made. He's the coolest OC.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up being recruitable, which I think is fun. But well, tell me about, I have a lot of things written down here. I played this last night. But what you have any general thoughts about Junktown, Michael?
Well, general thoughts. It became a Fallout game.
Oh, what's that mean?
That's kind of where I feel like I can see in previous episodes I've talked about how this game feels strangely flat. There's a lack of character. And I guess it turns out that everything up until now has kind of been like, clearly I was being tutorialized for a certain part of it, but I guess it's been even more of a tutorial than I thought, because you get to Junktown and suddenly there are just like there are more characters you can talk to. There's like more stuff happening, and it's a lot sort of wackier just very suddenly. Like I noticed that, and maybe it's because I leveled up just enough or something, but I suddenly had a lot more sort of weird dialogue options, which I used to the fullest effect, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, like sort of suddenly, so the other thing is that, like, Junktown, as the name suggests, is a town that is built out of junk. So we've got that good post-apocalyptic trope, whereas Shady Sands was created with a Garden of Eden creation kit or what have you. So we have, like, this real junky town, like the town that is visibly built out of buildings that were not what they are now. And there are walls built with rubble and trash and, like, old car chassis and things like that.
Because I'm playing with this like widescreen mod, which I meant to share with you. Please remind me when we're done recording so I can share this with you.
Okay.
so you can use it. But so I'm playing with it, and the last time I played this game was probably like 7 or 8 years ago, and I played all the way through it, but like. Not in widescreen, probably in like 640/480 or 1024 or something like that. Still very square, still pretty small, but then blown up in detail. And using this widescreen mod and getting it to like 1080p or whatever, this trash that you're talking about, this like kind of corrugated steel and like the siding and these cars piled up and all this kind of stuff, it looks awesome. Like it really has a very distinct visual style to it that looks real, because there's like the whatever it's called, like the Corvegas or whatever they are, the in world cars, the Fallout cars that are fusion powered, like those. The gate to Junktown is made out of one of those, like stood up vertically, and something else is on it, and just there's a lot of very fine grained artistry in making these assets that I've really not seen up until this time playing through. So I've been really impressed by that kind of, both the feel of it that you're talking about, but the actual how it looks part.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it looks really good. Like these graphics have, they're not the height of artistry, but like the look has aged, I think, pretty well compared to some other games. And yeah, so that's what I meant, I guess, right? It feels like at this point the game has kind of assumed a tone or a character that I generally associate with Fallout. Now, to be clear, I still don't like love the game. I'm not like suddenly having a great time, because it still plays the same, and also some other weird things have kind of jumped out at me during this little session. But like I'm seeing what this would have been in the time, if that makes sense, right? I'm seeing suddenly like how this would have clicked together for a player in 1997 who had played their Baldur's Gates or whatever, but wanted something like that but different, something that was trying something new with the isometric formula.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree. Like this episode, I guess it is this episode, but this chunk of the game really, like, it gives you, and we're going to talk through all this, of course, but it gives you some interconnected stories, right, where there are different parties, and you get some, like, real choices that matter in there. And then you have these, like, almost, I don't know, like, fully independent NPCs that have their own thing going on, and you can go engage with them, but you don't have to at the same time. And let me tell you, I'm sure that you got to have some interesting moments in here, because you have access to dialogue options.
Oh, yes.
I basically got access to nothing good. Like, for me, the game is still relatively shallow in, like, what it asks or allows me to do, and that is almost entirely up to the fact that it is, my intelligence is not low enough for me to be truly weird and, like, say really silly things. And it's not high enough for me to get access to new and cool things. And so, for example, well, I'll save it for a minute, but there are a lot of times where I was like, dang, I feel like there's another way to do this, and I would look it up, and it would be like, yeah, if your intelligence is high enough, there is a different way of doing this. But if not, you can either just kill these people or ignore them. And I was like, well, crap. Like, I guess I gotta kill them then.
Well, you will be happy to know that for all of her intelligence, Eleanor still stumbled into situations where she just had to kill people in this episode.
Well, good.
So that was the other thing that sort of jumped out to me about this session was... So on the one hand, as you say, right, there are these like interconnected stories that we'll talk about, little things that you can do. And like you can do things in one aspect of a quest that will impact how another quest pays off. All these intricate little things. The game is not set up in such a way that stops you from totally messing this up. Let us say. I mean, so I'll tell you. Here's how I introduced myself to Junktown. So you show up. There's a guy at the front named what is his name, Lars or something?
Yeah, Lars.
He's like the lead guard, and he gives you the rundown of this place, and it's like, go check out Killian Darkwater and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Or Gizmo, the man who owns the casino.
Oh, I was gonna say, so yeah, this is the thing about this town is it's a very classic RPG situation. There are two powerful people here in Junktown. One is Killian Darkwater, the mayor / owner of the general store.
Mm-hmm. It's a real Seth Bullock situation here.
So there's him, and then there is Gizmo, who runs the casino, and he's like, so obviously in this situation, like, Killian Darkwater represents the sort of like, you know, good civic infrastructure and all that stuff, and Gizmo just wants to be like a, you know, petty tyrant slumlord criminal kind of person and like make everyone lose all their money at his casino, I suppose. So Lars introduces you to them. So you know, like, what's going on in this town, right? Eventually, if you've played any sort of RPG, you know, at some point I'm probably going to have to make a decision that is going to impact which one of these guys is going to end up in control of this place. But I had no time for that because I was injured. So I went to the doctor.
I did this. Well, before we get to the doctor, so did you? What's the guy's name? Lars. So did you have a conversation with Lars, or were you just like, yeah, thanks, goodbye?
I mean, I had a conversation with him, but nothing about it seemed particularly interesting or standouting to me. So
I don't know if this was stat based, but he was like, all right, well, just don't get too rowdy. And I was like, I got a dialogue option that was like, but I like to have a rowdy time. And he was like, well, don't do it. And he was like, you can't tell me what to do. I'll get rowdy if I want to get rowdy. And he was like, oh, okay, fine. Like, whatever. It's just the weirdest little thing to be like, but I like to be rowdy. That's my thing.
Being rowdy is what I am.
Yeah, I'm Tonk. I'm rowdy. So I just thought that was... Anyway, I did the same thing. I had this little conversation, and then I was like, ooh, hospital. That sounds good.
Yeah. How'd the hospital go for you?
So I had... Well, you've begun this story, Michael. You tell me your experience, and I'll tell you exactly what I did, which also involved the day-night cycle again.
Yes. So I showed up at this place. It's nighttime. I go into the doctor, and usually, like, doctors in this game, in my experience thus far, will, like... They'll, like, gripe at you if you talk to them at night. They'll do the normal, like, I'm sleeping, go away, or whatever. Mm-hmm. Even though they're just standing there. But they will heal you if you're insistent, because they're doctors, I guess. So I go into the doctor's office, and the doctor's not there. Instead, there are these two guards. And I kind of talk to them, and they're like, yeah, we're the guards for the doctor. And I'm like, all right, huh. And they're like, I don't know what's going on. The doctor's not here. But there is a ladder going down in one of the rooms. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's another story here. Like, I'll go check out the doctor.
Yep, so we are currently having the exact same experience.
Yes. So I go down the ladder, and I end up in a basement. And I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. And there's someone who's clearly the doctor. And then there's another figure that is described by the game text. And I'm going to quote this here.
This is and to be very clear, everyone, this is a quotation of what is in the game.
It is not a good thing what I'm about to say, right? It is very ableist and fatphobic, but there's a character in here that is described by the game text as a rotund midget.
Yes.
So I'll have more to say on this later, actually, when we get to Gizmo. But that's what this character is. This is like the first time I have seen a character who was in any way marked out from like having a like normative body type.
Yeah.
And then I talk to this because they're like right there. Actually, I think it's a him. So I'm talking to him because I'm like, who is this character? And it's very like Mad Maxy, like I don't know exactly how to put this, but like this intellectually delayed or like developmentally delayed is how you are meant clearly to understand this character.
He's like a wasteland scoundrel and a scamp who's like war torn by radiation, and so everything about him is supposed to scream like nefarious, deformed human.
Yes,
it is. Just, like that's the stereotype, that very Mad Max 2 kind of stereotype.
Yeah, very much so.
His name is Gretch.
Gretch, yes. Okay, and this is why I was confused, because I thought it was a woman. I was like, oh, Gretchen. But no, Gretch. It's a guy named Gretch. So anyway, I'm talking to him, and he's sort of like weird and elliptical and incoherent. But he says something about how like the doctor has to get the shipment out or something like that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I I didn't get anything useful out of him. So then I talked to the doctor. At this point, the doctor freaks out because it turns out the doctor is doing something really bad. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I know it has something to do with the bodies that he's cutting up. And then he aggroes me, as does Gretch, and I have to kill them both.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it for me. I killed them both, and I was like, oh, huh. And then I crawled out of the basement, and the guards who were in there didn't react, didn't care that I had just killed the doctor downstairs. And as far as I could tell, no one else in the town cared at all. I could never talk to them about what had just happened, this weird confrontation I had in a basement for reasons that I'm still not really clear on.
So when I talked to Gretch, I was like, hey buddy, what you got there? And he was like, well, I got the stuff the doctor's got. And I was like, yeah, well, what could that be? What even could you have? And he was like, corpse pieces for Iguana Bob for this side quest. Very, very clearly doing that. But I got down there and it was just like the doctor wouldn't talk to me initially. And so I had to go upstairs and then make time go forward and come back downstairs. But here's the weird thing. I thought for sure, I was like, if I kill this doctor, no one's going to care, right? I should be good. But lo and behold, when I killed the doctor, I came back up and everyone had aggroed me. And so I had to reload my game. But then, later, I came back to do it and then got the doctor to aggro me, and I was A-okay.
Okay.
So that's a theory of justice for you, you know?
Well, I'm glad that we both, just stumbled into the doctor's office and then had to kill him.
Yeah, so his name is Doc Morbid, right? So that's his thing, and I think he's kind of if not a famous NPC from this game, then a known, kind of memorable NPC, because he is, of course, chopping people up and then turning them into quote-unquote iguana bits, which are what's the thing where you put... you put a stick through stuff.
Oh, shish kebab.
A shish kebab. He's that's the item. It's iguana bits or that kind of thing. But I kind of wonder. This has come up, of course, around our first episode. By the time we were recording this, we have finally released the first episode of Too Much Future. We were recording them ahead for a while, and there's a lot of discussion already on Twitter. Jack DeKeat said a bit about this on Twitter, and there was some discussion in the Range Touch Discord about how there's a tonal difference between Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 and then Fallout 3. But really, Fallout 1 and 2 as a unit, and then Fallout 3 as developed by Bethesda, a decade later. Based on my experience with Gretch and the kind of pseudo-comedy, or unclear is it funny or not, that Doc Morbid's cutting people up, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there is some sort of tonal inconsistency or conceptual inconsistency between these classic games and the new ones. What do you think?
I mean, it's very hard for me to judge, if only because I encountered it in such an incoherent way that I didn't know what was going on.
True.
But yeah, I would say, this doesn't feel well, I was gonna say, the thing that it actually reminds me of is New Vegas, where you find out that there's one entire hotel that's run by cannibals or whatever.
Well, you can withhold judgment too, Michael.
Yeah.
If you want to, I'm not making you. I'm not forcing you into a corner. I'm the devil here, and I'm asking you hard questions.
I will say I have not seen enough of the game to really make that judgment call. Then.
Sound off in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know. Hit the notification ding dong doorbell up there.
Yep. That's the end of the episode. There we go.
That's it. That's all we, it's all about, I just look dead into the camera. It's all about figuring out what your opinion is. One way or the other, we all come around to the middle. The most important thing is to keep all the information in mind. Mm-hmm. Join us next time for another episode of Hardball with Chris Matthews. The next episode of Real Talk. Or Hard Talk, whatever the hell it's called.
Hardball.
Let's see. I've got that in my notes. I've got a rowdy time in my notes. I've got Gretch. I had a long thing written about Gretch. I figured out that Tonk might not be able to read.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because there's like those manuals that you can buy that like give you skill ups for reading them. Mm-hmm. I was trying to buy one, and it just said like, you don't know what this is.
Oh, interesting.
And you can't tell what it is. Like, you have no idea.
Okay, then.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting and cool, but really that happened around Killian Darkwater in his what do you call it? In his general store that I went to, and so I talked to Killian Darkwater, and then I backed off from talking to Killian Darkwater, and then and then I was just wandering around trying to steal things from his his general store, and some dude wanders in. And like combat happens.
Oh, yes.
And it's not combat that I initiated, and I was not really paying attention, and it really threw me for a loop.
Yeah. No, this is obviously, I think it's scripted to happen, I think after you talk to Killian the first time, is this person comes in. And yeah, it totally threw me off too, because suddenly I was like, oh, someone's like moving. Very rarely do characters in this game actually move this much, unless they're up to something important. I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, he's got a gun.
Yeah, he's taken it to Killian Darkwater. And he says something like, Gizmo sends his regards or something.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, this dude's name is like Kinshi, I think.
Yes, it's Kinji, yeah.
Kinji, and then later it's like Izo is the name of another one of Gizmo's guards, and so like there are these like I don't know, East Asian names for some reason,
right?
Alongside Killian Darkwater and Gizmo. So there's a little bit of interesting cultural overlap going on here in Junktown, but yeah, he says like it's for Gizmo. I accidentally broke the game here somehow. In Junktown, I broke the game many times.
Yeah.
Did you do that? Did that happen to you?
So I'm trying, yes, I did break the game, I think. I ended up in a weird situation where everyone was hostile to me and I wasn't sure why. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that happened to me like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, that definitely happened to me at least once. And then I did an experiment later that was just extremely funny, and I'll talk about that when we get to Gizmo.
So with Killian Darkwater here, so like this dude shows up and he says like for Gizmo, and he like tries to kill Killian Darkwater, and Killian Darkwater whips a gun out and just annihilates this guy. But what is interesting is the first time, since I wasn't sure what was going on, note that I said the first time, but I wasn't sure what was going on, so I just kind of stood there, and I think I just ended my turn and like let everything happen. And so I went back to talk to Killian Darkwater to be like, hey, what the hell is going on here? And he just pretended like nothing had occurred, like at all. And so I ended up playing around a little bit more, and I was like, oh, it's really weird that there's no quest for like Killian Darkwater, like to take out Gizmo.
That's basically just a day in his life, man.
I guess so, right? And so that's the thing, is I was like, well, that seems weird that there's not a quest. And so I talked to everyone, and I couldn't really figure it out. And so I looked up a thing online, like how do you get the pro Killian Darkwater Junktown quest? And turns out I had to reload the game, and when that guy attacked Killian Darkwater, I had to attack that guy to help him.
So because you didn't attack that guy, it didn't trigger, you think?
Yes, yeah, that's literally what happened. And so it's like you have to affirm Killian Darkwater before you can get the quest from Killian Darkwater. And I did. And then I got like some experience for helping Killian. I got like 400 extra experience. And then the next little part of the quest triggered. So like the scripting here is real tight. you gotta really figure that stuff out. But yeah, so that happened, and I told Killian Darkwater, I will fight Gizmo for you after I talk to Gizmo. Did you make a choice like right off the bat, or did you go talk to everybody?
So I mean, I basically made the choice immediately. Like, I knew what I was going to do. So I went ahead and I think does he give you the wire or the recorder automatically?
Oh, yes, he does. He says one of two things you can do here, buddy. You can plant a bug on Gizmo, or you can wear a wire. And it's like a 1.5 foot tall tape recorder.
Yeah.
Like a 1950s style big magnetic tape recorder.
Yeah.
And
so I took that, yeah.
So, okay. Walk me through your Gizmo scenario then, because I think mine is very interesting as well.
Okay. So what I noticed at this point was that so Junktown is set up in such a way that as you enter it, you will meet, if you're kind of being the ideal player or the implied player, you are going to meet Killian Darkwater first. Mm-hmm. Right? That's kind of how this level is set up. And I thought that was interesting because Gizmo is all the way at the back of the map. You have to go all the way back. He's like the furthest away from the entry point. So what I did is at this point, I reloaded an old save to where before I had like talked to Darkwater, and instead I just walked straight to the back of the map and talked to Gizmo. And what he did was very, very strange. He just said, "Oh, it's you. I've been meaning, like, I've got some business to discuss with you, like, sit down." And then he told me to kill Killian for him. Mm-hmm. And I was, like, very confused because he just, like, straight up just acts as if it's you are someone he knows, and then makes this demand of you to kill Killian. I refused, at which point he and his guard tried to kill me. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't invested in what was happening, so I let them kill me, and then I reloaded my previous save. So then I wandered around before I actually went to talk to Gizmo. But I went in, and if we're going to go through the whole Gizmo story, I went into the casino. I talked around, figured out who was there, and then went into the back room. And Gizmo was not happy to see me like he was in the alternate timeline. In fact, he didn't know who I was, even though he had known who I was before. And instead, he was just kind of like, "Oh, what do you want? What are you doing here?" And I had the option. Well, I told him, like Killian is sent, or I didn't tell him that Killian has sent me. I had the option of doing that and basically trying to play them against each other. But otherwise, he's basically like, "I have some work for you." And so I was like, "Oh, tell me more about this." And he explains how he wants Killian dead, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, okay, cool. Like, this is exactly what I need to be recording to finish up my part of this quest. I wonder what I can do to make sure that it's actually been recorded. So after he finished telling me what he needed me to do, I had a dialogue option, which was fantastic. Something like this, like, "Fantastic. Could you say that a little more directly to my lapel?" And I thought, why not? So I chose that, and he immediately understood that I was wearing a wire, and then he and his guards aggroed me, and I had to fight my way out. And in the process, I killed Gizmo. And also, we should just note, like, this is something that I had said before, that I wanted to talk about Gizmo and Gretch. Gizmo is a very, very large, fat man.
Yeah.
And he's got, like, this, like, horrible congested voice, and I don't think, like, it's, I don't know how this was for you, Cameron, but, like, from my perspective with Eleanor, with all of her great zingers, I could make so many fat jokes Like I like almost every single way of talking to or about him for Eleanor was like some sort of weird crack at the expense of his weight, which I will pause and acknowledge that this is the Fallout humor to some extent.
Yeah, I think
right?
so. Yeah.
Like, right, like we don't see as much of this in the more recent games, but like this is there at the beginning. This is part of that sort of like zany approach to the world that I think is part of that Fallout humor. And it was also like the one time that I thought, oh, this is something that Bethesda has miraculously avoided by making every single body in their games the same.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. If you
right, I was like, ironically, they have avoided all of these like weird fat phobic ableist things by just being like, oh yeah, all of the like mutations that happen because of radiation, they're not happening to people.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that that's how I finished off Gizmo. Is I had to shoot him.
His character. Well, I guess I have a couple things to say about his character model. The one where he's on the map, like the isometric one, is very interesting. It's just like the Overseer, right? Where he's like a character that is a part of his desk, and his desk is the whole thing. And did you go into VATS while you were fighting him in any way?
No.
Do you know how to use VATS? This might be an important little piece of knowledge for everybody.
I didn't know if I was already. I assumed I was using VATS.
So you can right-click on your attack, like down there in the bottom, and it gives like a little double circle to it, and you can click that, and you can like look at aim for the eyes.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, that's very
like
helpful.
In the Fallout ones, and it takes one additional action point to do it.
Okay. Okay.
So, for example, later when I was fighting Gizmo in like Ezo, or I think it's Ezo, his number 2 there, like my second action in the fight, if you have a hammer, you can either swing that hammer or you can thrust with that hammer. And I thrusted right into his eyeballs and blinded him. And he did not take an action the rest of the combat. It was very cool. That's like some like simulationist kind of stuff. But
yeah.
But yeah, the model is interesting because it's this kind of he and his desk are one thing, and when you go into VATS, it's actually one thing. So it's like you can hit him in like the head or upper torso or in the desk, which is pretty interesting. But
hit him in the desk.
Hit him in the desk. But yeah, 100%. I wasn't able to like crack a bunch of fat jokes, but I was able every insult that I could deal out to him, which is basically all Tonk's got going. He can either like happily acknowledge something or he can insult you. There's nothing in the middle. And yeah, like all the insults were about Gizmo being fat and being mean to him for that, which is really weird. It's like, Killian Darkwater has no qualities. Like he is a man without anything. He's just like generic hero number 1, and it's not as if he has like a character trait where you're like, oh, that's a heroic character trait. He's just a person.
Yeah, for a man named Killian Darkwater, he's just like he there's nothing to him. Does he even have a cowboy hat?
No, he's just got like some sandy blonde hair.
Yeah, a man named Killian Darkwater needs a cowboy hat. I'm sorry.
And a duster. And like a full-length duster. It is interesting, too, though. When you talked to Killian Darkwater the first time, did you tell him you were from the Vault?
Yes, I did. What did he say?
Well, he just gets pissed off. He's like, yeah. He doesn't quite say this, but he's like, yeah, pull the other one. Whatever. People make shit up all the time.
He didn't get quite as angry at me, but yeah, no, he doesn't believe that vaults exist.
Yeah. He just doesn't think that like people are from vaults.
Right, he said something to me about how, like, oh, sounds like a nice fairy tale or something.
Yeah, I think I got that.
And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, what? Like, you don't think the vaults exist? You don't think people come from them? Like, Shady Sands, the town north of here, was literally founded by people who fled from a vault.
And so were the Raiders. The Raiders are also from people who came from a vault. Yeah, I don't... there's, this feels, because I know that Baldur's Gate was, each section was kind of done by a couple different designers, in that kind of 1990s development model of being a fairly small team. And I wonder if, the first little chunk of the game that we played, if that's all 1 or 2 designers and developers who were doing that. And then Junktown feels like that's one person kind of doing all that. So that could be the case. But anyway, that's all to say. Killing Darkwater, like we're saying, no qualities as a person, just like this blank slate, whatever, generic white dude. And then Gizmo, by virtue of being evil, gets one trait, and that's being fat. And like all of his evilness and all modes of interaction, like shoot through that and all the stereotypical ways that you think, which is kind of a bummer because I mean it's a bummer for obvious reasons, but it's a bummer too because he's like the casino operator. There's a billion cool ways you can do that aren't like the lowest common denominator of fat jokes. And I guess the rival gangs in Fallout 2 are kind of like the better way of handling some of that stuff that we'll see in Fallout 2. But yeah, I was just really disappointed with that as well. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how I took out Gizmo and made Killian Darkwater the king of Junktown, which, by the way, Junktown still has peasants.
Junktown has like serfs or something.
Yeah, it's like Junktown serfs or something. Just another weird thing going on. Okay, I guess Killian's keeping serfs. But so I killed Gizmo, and Killian, I think, did he even acknowledge? I shouldn't have killed Gizmo, is what I'm trying to say. Because at this point, Lars got really pissed at me.
Really?
Yes. Because I think what I was supposed to do, as Killian laid it out for me, is I was supposed to record Gizmo saying whatever, and then go to go back to Killian, and present the evidence, and then Killian would get the law on my side. By which he meant Lars. So I killed Gizmo, went back to Killian. He didn't really respond to me. And then I went to Lars, and Lars was angry because I had killed Gizmo. I had essentially extrajuridically assassinated him. And because I had not like gone through the proper channels, like turning in the evidence and bringing the law to arrest him, Lars was really upset and told me that I should leave town.
Damn.
But it's like, dude, I killed him in self-defense.
Yeah, and he had a buddy with him too.
Right?
I guess you could have just ran out of the room though. I mean, he has a bunch of guards, but mine was not that way. I had to do everything in this town like 2 or 3 times because I kept screwing it up and aggroing the entire town for various reasons. The way I ended up doing it, like let me narrativize it for you. Killing Darkwater says, "Look, you can tape record or you can plant a bug on him, but somehow we got to take this guy down. And if we have all the evidence, we'll get the town to turn on him, and they'll impeach him." And that's how you know this is a complete and absolute fantasy. But so I go in there and I like open the door, and I slowly but surely walk in there very confidently. And Gizmo, because I have not talked to him, does not speak to me first. And so I guess Tonk and him are just locking eyes, and Tonk is walking toward him and just leans over in his desk and then puts this little bug in there and stands up, still locking eyes, and then walks out of the room and leaves. And so I went back to Killing Darkwater. He was like, "Yep, it's coming in clean. Looks like I've got all that information I need. Just go talk to Lars and see what's up." And so I went and talked to Lars, and Lars was like, "Yeah, I guess we're gonna murder that guy. You want to come with us?" And Tonk, like, the gears in his head start churning away, and he was like, "Well, how much will you pay me, Lars?" And Lars was like, "Well, I guess I'll pay you the standard mercenary fee of 500 caps." And so, Tonk did like two fist pumps in the air. And then, so I said yes. We were immediately teleported into his office, like teleported right in front of him. Tonk took 2 steps forward and permanently blinded that guy by punching him in the face with a sledgehammer. And then the fight went perfectly. And so that's how we killed Gizmo. So it's justice if you show up with a posse, basically.
Right, exactly. That's how things work in the Wasteland.
So I did that and got rid of Gizmo, and everyone clears out of the casino as soon as you get rid of him.
Yep, they're like, well, I can't do blackjack now because there's a murdered guy in the back room.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. When he dies, it's like brutal. It like blows a hole through his model. It's rough stuff. Did you go to the hotel? Did you stay in the hotel?
I did. I stayed in the hotel for a night. How did I get that room? Did I just pay for it?
I mean,
I think
that's
I did,
why
yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also, like there's a bunch of gangsters in the hotel as well.
Yeah. Did you do this quest?
I couldn't figure out how to. So okay. I'll tell my hotel story first, which is that I paid for a room in the hotel because I could, and then I went to sleep, and then I woke up, and there was another woman in the hotel, like one room over, named Cynthia, and her name is spelled Sinthia, so that's how you know she's a sex worker.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah,
Did you get the joke?
I actually didn't get it at first. I was just like, that's a weird way to spell Cynthia. And then I talked to her, and she said something like, some weird piece of stock character sex worker dialogue, like, hey, handsome, like, looking for a good time or something. Except she didn't say that, because that sounds very much like she's talking to a guy. Anyway, she came on to me, is what I'm saying. But then when I had the chance to, like, respond, because I was Eleanor, she just immediately was like clearly, like, I couldn't have any further conversation with her in that direction because I was also a woman. It was very strange. Like, that's how she introduced herself, but then I couldn't keep flirting.
So you're like, hey, sailor,
Anyway,
don't talk to me anymore.
Right? It's just like, she's like, what are you doing in my room? But you get the room next to hers, you can go to sleep, and you wake up, and there is a sort of like very wound up gang member holding her hostage. And if you try to go in, they tell you to be careful, blah, 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 like, because he's got a gun to her head, and you can talk to him. It seemed to me like I had maybe possibly talked, like, I had a initial, like, exchange with him where I talked him down from immediately shooting her. And I thought that was basically like, oh, okay, now it's time to progress. So I walked into the room and talked with him, and instead he just got really angry and aggroed me, so then I had to kill him.
Yeah, that's where I was at.
Yep. And then I talked with Cynthia, and Cynthia was mad at me.
She's so pissed off that you killed that guy.
And it's just like, I did not know that he was going to aggro me when I walked into the room. I thought after he had agreed to not kill you immediately, we had some sort of understanding. But no, Cynthia just has nothing else to say to me. Although the person who runs the hotel is glad that I guess someone still got murdered, but it wasn't Cynthia, I suppose.
Yeah, apparently you can talk to him again. I couldn't quite figure out how to do that either. But for me, I mean, the interesting thing, right, is like, oh, you're going to get in a fight, and Eleanor is probably going to pull a gun. And, you're going to shoot it out.
Yeah.
But for Tonk, it's like, I walked into the room, and he aggroed me, and then I had to walk forward for a full turn before I could get within melee range. And just swing my weapon at him and, like, break his leg with a tactical hammer strike.
Yeah, I imagine it would feel very different doing this all with a melee
Yeah,
weapon.
the melee weapon thing for Tonk really is, it's always just like, well, I guess here we go. Here.
Slowly walk across the map to murder.
Yeah, but the thing is he's doing like 16 damage per whack now. And I have leather armor on, so my AC is like 21, so I can get shot a lot of times before I get... So it's like a very Terminator kind of like... I just keep coming, and when I get in range, it's like, I'm going to do a tactical strike right to your right arm and smash it. So that's kind of fun.
Speaking of armor, I was wearing a leather jacket, so I got a new party member here.
Whoa, you have to be wearing that leather jacket to get it?
Yeah. So this is a big famous Fallout thing, so famous that even I knew about it. But there's a dog who is hanging out outside one of the houses, and the person who lives there, I guess, is like, oh, watch out for that dog. He's a real murderer or something. And it's just a dog. Like, It's just a dog. But if you talk to the guy who told you it's a murderer, he mentions that it came into town with like a stranger wearing a black leather jacket, and ha ha ha, he's describing Mad Max. But because I was also wearing the Mad Max jacket, the second the dog saw me, the dog was like, "Oh, you're my leader now." And now I have two people in my party. I have Ian, who is my bullet sponge, and I have Dog Meat, who is my melee tank, I guess.
I gave Ian the gun that you can get off Gizmo, like hyper powered, like single shot. I don't even know, like
it's like a Remington.
Yeah, something like that. So I gave that to him, and he was just running around annihilating people now, since he's so bad at SMGs but good at everything else. But yeah, so I also got Dog Meat, but I wasn't wearing the armor, and so what I had to do is I had to go up to him, and I like tried to talk to him, and he was like, "Grr, I'm a dog. Don't mess with me," because I was wearing the metal, the big spiky metal Raider armor. And so I was like, grrr. And so I used my little inventory button, and I gave him some iguana on a stick. And then he was like, oh yeah, new master. And he was cool, and he followed me around. So there's two ways to get Dog Meat.
Oh,
yeah.
Neat.
And
yeah, I didn't even have to try. I was just wearing the right shirt.
He just rolled over there. What's cool about Dog Meat, too, I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but what is cool about him to me is that he hits for like 5 attacks per turn, and they hit pretty hard.
Yeah. No, he's combat has actually gotten easier now that I have. Basically, now that I can kind of like kite Ian around in places where he can be my human shield. And Dog Meat, meanwhile, is coming in from behind or something.
Hey, Ian, why don't you walk right over there? Why don't you just get between me and those people, and then I'll initiate combat.
Exactly.
So you never figured out how to fight the skulls, like, at all?
I went into the back room, and they're all hanging out there. But there's one guy who, like, clearly if I kept talking to him in a certain way, he's like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. Quote unquote crazy. Yeah. Where he's talking about how beautiful the blood is and blah, 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 blah. It was clear that if I did the right dialogue options with him, that I would have to fight him, but then I would also have to fight all of the other gang members, and I didn't really want to do that, and I couldn't, like, figure out I couldn't find, like, the place somewhere else in the town to really start levering in what I assume is the other way to do that quest, which is just not murder everyone. But, like, no one was like, imbuing me with the responsibility of doing something about these gangsters. So I was just like, well, I guess they're gonna stay here because they're just hanging out in the hotel and not bothering anyone now.
Well, so I don't remember, because they're like Gizmo's like frontmen, basically, like in the lore. Yeah, I can't reproduce in my head, and I didn't write down the exact sequence of events that this happens. But basically, a few things have to happen. You have to. Lars has to not be pissed off at you. So this might be how you got locked out of this particular thing. So Lars says, I don't like the skulls. They're bad gang members. I'm trying to get rid of them. The other thing you have to do is you have to go to the bar that's beside the casino, and you have to that's owned by this guy named Ned, and you have to be standing in there when one of the skulls is like harassing one of the waitresses. And Ned, the bartender, just whips out a shotgun and like blows this dude in half, in like this totally gross little isometric animation. And he's like, don't mess with anyone, don't mess with the waitress anymore, or I'll shoot all of you. So then you can talk to the skulls, and you can be like, hey, I would like to be initiated into your gang. And they say, you know who we hate? Ned. Ned sucks because he's been splattering our people. So on the bar, and so this is where it's like some real Fallout kind of stuff, right? On the bar in Ned's bar.
Oh, yes, the urn. I saw this.
Yeah, there's a thing that looks like a trophy, and Ned's like, those are actually the ashes of my dead wife. So, okay.
Just hanging out here on the bar.
Yeah, and so the skulls charge you with going and stealing it, like stealing the urn. And I
Oh, and just so you know, his name isn't Ned, it's Neil.
oh, I'm sorry, Neil, aka Popcorn, aka Neil. And so yeah, okay. So you can go and steal Neil's wife's ashes, and you come back and you talk to the skulls again. And this is where the quest breaks for me because of something that is up with Tonk and his ability scores, which is a real bummer. So you talk to the skull, and he's like, you get two options. He's like, all right, we're gonna go kill Neil now, and he says, are you ready to go? And you can say yes. Or Tonk, I should say, can say yes, let's go and kill Neil, or no, I don't want to do that. I don't like you at all. I don't really want to be a gang member at all. In which case, they all aggro you, right? So, like, and to me, I'm reading that and I'm thinking, dang, that is a crappy binary decision. So I go around and talk to a bunch of people, and I can't get any more information about this. So I, again, pulled up the guide, pulled up a little quest thing to be like, is there something I'm missing here that I just can't figure out? And lo and behold, there should be a third option that says, yes, I want to go do it, but I want to wait a little while. I'll get back to you. In which case, you can go talk to Lars and turn them in and then resolve the thing by basically like fighting the gang members with the guards.
Right.
But for some reason, Tonk can't do that. And so rather than leave it unresolved, I said, yeah, I don't want to be a gang member. And so they all surrounded me, all 7 of them, and Tonk, one by one, smashed them each with a hammer. and my hammer skill's like at 115% now or something. Or actually, I guess I should say, it's not a hammer skill, it's a melee weapon skill. But for him, it's a hammer skill. And so, yeah, so if he hits someone with a hammer, he'll do like 16 damage, and they'll hit the ground, and they will slide along the ground for several tiles.
When I've been seeing that happening in combat as people have gotten more powerful, like the weird like staggering.
Yes, and so I'm able to do it a lot of the time. It's probably 50% of the time someone's doing that. When I fought Doc Morbid, I hit him, and he hit the ground and slid from the entrance ladder all the way to the wall. And that's like 9 tiles or something. So that's like pretty cool stuff that's happening with that. So yeah, but me and Ian and Dogmeat just fought. Actually, Dogmeat, weirdly enough, was too far away when I initiated the dialogue, and so he just never showed up to the fight. But me and Ian, did that fight. Apparently, also, if you have high enough speech skill, the woman who is guarding the door is named something like Scarlet or something like that. You can talk to her and convince her to leave the gang, and then go and talk to her later and have her be basically a turncoat to testify against them, and then Lars will be able to like get rid of the gang. Oh, yeah, so that's a cool thing, but God help you if you're trying to look to figure that out,
Right.
But yeah, so that was a cool thing, but I ended up just having to murder people again. Was not super exciting.
I like how this is very much like the thing that is uniting our playthroughs is us stumbling into situations where we just kind of have to murder people.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's like a karma system, right? That theoretically should be, eventually in Fallout, and this even starts happening in Fallout 2, but certainly by Fallout 3, right? The karma system starts becoming like, did you take the easy and evil way, or did you take the slightly harder but good way? Mm-hmm. And in this, my karma is at a perfectly good 14, which is like neutral, positive a little bit. And I have killed basically everyone I've come into contact with. So it seems like... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually don't know what my karma is. I haven't looked at it. I hadn't thought to. But you're right, because like there are and this was just something as you were talking about like the Neil Earn quest, I was looking it up, and it's really fascinating because so in theory you could play a quote unquote like good character, like your character is good, or you like want your role playing as a good character, a person who is good. You could end up in a situation where you have to do that Earn quest, which in fact costs you karma.
Dang.
But it's important for you to steal that Earn and lose karma in order for you to set everything up in such a way that you can then have like the gang taken out by the guards or what have you.
So weirdly enough, the ultimate goodest thing to do is to not bother and just murder them.
Right. But yeah, no, it's definitely a different way of mapping what karma means compared to, as you said, the later games where it's like, did you do the easy evil thing or the slightly more difficult thing that is good?
Marginally more difficult thing. Other stuff that I did, I saw a boxing match.
I did not. I saw the place where the boxing match was supposed to happen, but it was like, these boxing matches happen every 3 days or something absurd.
They happen every third day at 2:00 in the afternoon. Specifically.
Yeah, and I was just like, right? And I was just like, I do not have the time or patience to
So, well, I did it.
wait.
I waited there. I used the wait button, and I waited my 3 days in a row, and I waited till 2:00, and I watched it happen. And lo and behold, I don't know what I expected, but there was a boxing match that took place. I bet on it. And then it happened in engine. They stood there and punched each other until one fell down. Combat occurred that I was not a part of, and they just punched each other, and I lost 100 caps. I also, when I was talking about top 10 anime villains the other day or earlier in this episode, there is a character you can meet up with. He's from Las Vegas. Or something like that. He's a little bit cagey, but I know he went through Vegas at some point. He has a floor-length duster. He's got a cool hat on. He's mysterious. He's got a gravelly voice. These are all descriptors the game gives you. His name's Tycho. Did you meet him?
I do not think I met Tycho.
Oh, he's a recruitable character.
Oh, wait, no. Is he the one who's hanging out in... Does he hang out in the bar?
Yeah, he's in the bar.
Yes, no, I did meet him. He raised my skill, I think.
Oh, yeah. He can give you, survival skill or something like that. Or outdoorsman skill.
Yes. I had a drink with him, and he told me about his adventures, and that made, he told me so much about them that I got better at being an adventurer myself.
Yeah. So I recruited him. He's, hanging out. He's got a shotgun. He's doing that kind of stuff.
How'd you recruit him?
Yeah, I just talked to him. I said, so you just talk to him again, and you say that Killian Darkwater's tasked you with cleaning up this town. Because in the first conversation, he'll say something like, "This town could be good if they could clean it up a little bit." And so that's what I said. I said, Killian Darkwater, even though I've already killed the casino guy, Killian Darkwater said that we were cleaning up this town. And he was like, "Okay," but you can't do it in that first conversation. You got to talk to him again. I did that. There's also a guy who's singing in the bar that you can talk to, and he's cool.
Yeah, a bard.
Yeah, yes, I guess he is like a bard, right? But he tells you about the LA Boneyard and another couple other places. They add some map markers to the map.
Yeah. This is, I guess, one of the other reasons that this really starts to feel like a Fallout game is that it starts acknowledging that there's other stuff out there rather than being a fairly limited view of things in the way that Shady Sands definitely was.
100%. Yeah, because Shady Sands, it's like, oh yeah, Ian came from the hub. He's the coolest dude here. And when you get to the Junktown, it's like, yeah, I mean, people go to the hub all the time. They also go to these 9 other spots. So whatever. Right. And I guess that's kind of cool to be there really are not that many people who are venturing out into the wasteland to go to places like Shady Sands. So I guess that's a cool, I do like that there's a kind of I was going to say geology, but geography to this place that really does narratively play out. That the hub in Junktown, yeah, there are people there, and they're trying to kind of create city states to figure that out. But then there's Shady Sands, the subsistence village that's right on the edge of I don't know, barely having safety against these raider groups.
Right. Well, it really it makes the wasteland feel it gives it some, not authentic, but it's some type of authenticity in the sense that the places seem to have real impacts on the people who live there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
100%.
Right. which is just, I mean, it's nice to see. It's nice to see that the designers and writers are thinking through this and thinking about, oh, in these characters in this place react differently to things than characters in this place, even though they all don't like it when you walk around without your gun or with your gun out.
Yeah, this kind of there's Andre Bazin, right? Wrote the Ontology of the Photographic Image, very very famous essay about kind of realism within the cinema broadly. And for years we read Bazin wrong. Blah 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 blah. Film studies, film studies, film studies. Anyway, there's a more recent reading of Bazin that says that realism for Bazin was internal consistency. Right, so this kind of adherence to principles within the world of the film, within the diegesis that that made that world feel more real. Right, so in Bicycle Thieves, all the people talking to one another and trading this bicycle back and forth and all that kind of stuff. That is what generates like capital R good ass realism. That's a quote from Cahiers du Cinéma, of course. Good ass realism.
Good ass realism.
But yeah, that's kind of I think exactly what you're saying. That it's that kind of like capital R realism in the sense of like this is a world and it is self-referential and it feels like people actually live here and are sharing the same experiences and are responding to the same things. Which is kind of weird to say about this game that we have almost exclusively talked about as disjointed and strange up to this point. But in that being disjointed or in that kind of strangeness, I think you're right. There is this kind of like, I don't know, core agreement or like, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't, to some extent, right? I feel like disjointed and strange would in fact be the experience of wandering around a wasteland.
Yes, maybe that's right.
And like, even when I was talking about how like, you know, the Doc Morbid stuff, or even like the totally bizarre like alternate timeline experience I had with Gizmo, this feeling of just like coming into town and the guy being like, oh, it's you, I have work for you, or like, oh, who are you, I need to kill you, and like never getting any more information as to what is happening. Seems pretty like I don't know, I've never lived in a wasteland, but I imagine things like that would not be terribly uncommon.
Only lived in a wasteland between 1992 and 1998, but speaking from that experience, I can say yeah, that's exactly how it is. Okay, well, any final thoughts here, Michael, at Junktown?
No, I don't think so. I think we talked about everything that I saw.
Okay,
there.
well, I think in the next episode of Too Much Future, we will probably be going to the hub. I need to check a little like walkthrough to see if that's the optimal route for us to progress through the game.
This is the other thing that is actually interesting, is that it's not really clear where we're supposed to be going.
No, not
right?
at all.
We're just looking for the water chip, and we have been told that Junktown exists, so we went to Junktown. And there's no water chip here, no leads in that regard. So now we know that the hub exists. So we're going to go check out that place. And I think that's really interesting, is that there is, in terms of like quest logs and things, this game is letting us kind of, is just go find a water chip and expecting us to do the wandering on our own.
Yeah, 100%. The only reason I even think that the hub is the next place, which I guess it is, but the other reason is because we found out about the hub and Junktown at the same time, which kind of presents them as roughly narrative equivalent as far as like next jump. And then now in Junktown we found out like about a couple other places, and so I'm assuming those are after the hub. But I honestly don't know. I'm just assuming. I'll check, but I believe we're going to the hub in the next episode. You can, find out about more Range Touch stuff at twitter.com/rangetouch. You can watch this show, the one you're watching right now, as well as other stuff here at youtube.com/rangetouch. Hit that subscribe button, please, and hit that like button, or hit the dislike button. You can do whatever you want, whichever, click with your heart. If you really want to know all about what we're doing here, and you should, and you want to know about the next episode of Too Much Future and the next other stuff that comes out, you can hit that weird little notification bell on the main page at youtube.com/rangetouch, and I'll give you all that info. If you like listening to this show and you would like to support it monetarily, you can go to patreon.com/rangedtouch to support this and other stuff like our actual play podcast, Sword Coast Coast to Coast, and Michael and my other show, Game Study Buddies, where we read through academic games, books, so you don't have to. Michael, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter @WarrenIsDead.
You got anything to plug?
I do not.
Okay, next time. Might have something to plug. You never know.
I mean, you never know. I don't know when this is coming out, so...
Probably like a month.
I mean, okay, so within the next 4 weeks, I am going to have an essay in the latest issue of Modern Philology, and it's going to be called Strange Intelligence, and it's the title is Strange Intelligence: Humans, Non-Humans, History, and Macbeth, and it is all about non-humans and like the natural world as an active force in history as it is sort of conceived of in the Shakespeare's play Macbeth. So check that out, y'all. I'm sure you'll have a great time.
You're talking about those trees moving around?
Oh, well, yeah, you bet I talk about those trees.
That's the one thing I know about Macbeth. Okay, that sounds good. That'll probably be out by the time this comes out. All right, we will see you next time on Too Much Future.
War never changes, but Fallout changes a lot.
Wow. Is that what we went with last time?
I don't know.
Are we just trying some out?
I'm just trying that out.
If you like that, hit the thumbs up button. If you don't like that, hit the thumbs down button. We're gonna get a vote that way. Goodbye.
Bye.